The cognitive revolution represents the point in the history that Homo sapiens acquired their dominant role over other species. Sapiens originated in Africa 150,000 years ago, but 70,000 years ago began to drive other species to extinction. Other human species that existed before Homo sapiens prevailed over Earth were Homo neanderthalensis, Homo erectus, Homo soloensis, and Homo floresiensis. They were able to do this with their new ways of thinking and communicating. The growth in cognitive abilities can be largely attributed to the power of language. Between 70,000 and 30,000 years ago, Homo sapiens expanded their thinking, and this initiated the cognitive revolution. It has been found that accidental genetic mutations altered the inner wiring in their brains, which heightened their ability to communicate with each other, essentially using a new type of language. Theories associate this development with different motives in communicating. One intention Homo sapiens had in communicating was warning others of dangers, as a form of protection. Others emphasized the importance of gossiping and the pure interest in sharing information about others and the world. Both of these forms of communication contributed to the group growth and cooperation. At this stage, people were able to form stronger bonds with each other, and this expansion of trust was an outcome of the development of language. Homo sapiens were also highly unique in their cognitive ability to speak about fiction and imaginative ideas such as legends, myths, gods, and religions. This was also a contributing factor to cohesion because it allowed large groups of sapiens to be connected through similar beliefs of fictional ideas. These imagined realities were significant in defining larger groups. The development of cooperation through language enabled the Homo sapiens species to accumulate power. The discovery of fire became the first significant difference between man and other animals. Cooking food with fire enabled humans to spend less time digesting in order to produce energy for communication, thinking, and cooperation. What is important to remember is that the power of fire was not limited by the form, structure, or strength of the human body. A single woman with a flint or fire stick could burn down an entire forest in a matter of hours. Ancient humans used fire as protection and an effective method to hunt large animals, ultimately propelling them to the top of the food chain. From 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens started spreading from East Africa to the Arabian Peninsula, quickly covering the entire Eurasian landmass. With the ability to store cooked food and enlarge their population, most sapien groups lived on the road, roaming from place to place in search of food. Their movements were heavily influenced by reasons like changing seasons, the annual migrations of animals, and the growth cycles of plants. Sapiens met the Neanderthals when they moved to the Middle East, and when sapiens reached East Asia, they interbred with the local Erectus species. By the way, don't forget our best friend dog, which has been our friend since 15,000 years ago. Dogs were domesticated even before the agricultural revolution. They helped us with hunting and fighting, and as an alarm system against wild beasts and human intruders. In short, they were a critical part of our development into the most powerful species on the planet. The agricultural revolution is traditionally considered one of the greatest accomplishments of humankind. Farming and domestication of cereal crops and grains such as wheat, barley, and millet provided a food surplus, and from there, human progression was propelled forward. When people are not spending all of their time feeding themselves, specialists arise. There is no way we would be living the way we are today if we were still living in hunter-gatherer communities. Although Harari works to disprove the myth that the agricultural revolution improved the quality of life for humans, it is impossible to say that the agricultural revolution was not important in the course of human history. The debate revolves around whether humans are better or worse off because of it.
Once food can be stockpiled, a political elite can gain control of food produced by others, assert the right of taxation, escape the need to feed itself, and engage full-time in political activities.
It is difficult to imagine if our current society would have to return to a diet solely reliant on the ability to catch or gather your food. We have grown so reliant on the commercial production of major foods, which directly derives from the agricultural revolution. Although the agricultural revolution limited the array of foods available, it provided a surplus of foods high in needed nutrients, such as protein. In hunter-gatherer societies, protein is difficult to come by. We have also become entitled to food on demand. Whether or not we are physically better off, it seems unlikely that in our current society we would choose to go back to pre-agricultural revolution practices.
This is the essence of the agricultural revolution, the ability to keep more people alive under worse conditions.
As a result of difficult work practices and less variation in their diets because of the agricultural revolution, humans began to lose stature. Hunter-gatherers were taller and more lean because they spent their days on their feet, searching for their next meal. Farmers, on the other hand, were subject to difficult manual labor that caused early cases of arthritis, slipped discs, and hernias.
The body of Homo sapiens had not evolved for such tasks. It was adapted to climbing apple trees and running after gazelles, not clearing rocks and carrying water buckets. Human spines, knees, necks, and arches paid the price.
Not only were human bodies negatively affected by new farming techniques brought about by the agricultural revolution, their diets suffered due to a lack of variation. Humans became increasingly reliant on grains, which made it difficult to supply food in a drought. Hunter-gatherers could count on nourishment from whatever was available to them, but farmers would suffer the consequences of a drought by eating less. In short, farmers worked harder for a worse diet. Farming societies also suffered from a lack of mobility. Hunter-gatherers were able to move when confronted by a drought or an opposing band of foragers. Farmers, well, they were stuck in one place. In a difficult situation, their options were to abandon their livelihood and start over somewhere else, or potentially die. Neither of these are great options. The agricultural revolution did make it possible for more people to exist in a certain geographic area. However, these people were far less healthy than their hunter-gatherer predecessors. In the oasis of Jericho in Palestine, 100 hunter-gatherers could live off the land. When inhabited by farmers, 1,000 people could live in the same area. That said, these 1,000 people were less healthy, and 1/3 of them would die before the age of 20. This is Harari's main point in regards to the agricultural revolution. The idea that more people were able to live, but under worse and more difficult circumstances.